When you ask people who they think the best female race car driver is, you get a wide range of responses. Michèle Mouton is typically the go-to, and for good reason. She was a force to be reckoned with in Group B, and nearly won the title in 1982. Another choice could be Eric Enders over in the NHRA, with 6 Pro Stock World Championships. And if you want a more American answer, Danica Patrick.
Huh?
Now, bear with me for a second. This lizard person, race car driver, she competed in NASCAR and IndyCar, the top levels of American motorsport. Was she dominant? No. In NASCAR, she was about as crash-prone as Pastor Maldonado on a particularly ambitious weekend.
Well, rule number 1 of stock car racing is learn how to wreck someone without wrecking yourself.
And in IndyCar, she was solid. A win at Twin Ring Motegi, fuel strategy or not, is still a win, and you can make a case for her. But there is one name that almost never gets mentioned. I'd like to introduce you to Eliška Junková. Junková, for those of you who are unaware, was a former racing driver from the Czech Republic who raced from 1922 to 1928 and was respected by names like René Dreyfus and even Ettore Bugatti himself. And it wasn't out of politeness. It was because she was fast. Elizabeth Junková was born in Olomouc, Austria-Hungary in 1900. She was introduced to racing in the early 1920s by her future husband, Vincent Junková, whom she met while working at a bank. By 1921, he was wealthy enough to fund his own automotive obsession, and Eliška's response? If he's going to be the love of my life, I'd better learn to love these damned engines too. So she got her driver's license, becoming one of the first women in Czechoslovakia to do so, and like Vincent, she too fell for the lure and excitement of blasting a metal coffin around the streets of Europe, and more specifically, Bugatti. At the Paris Motor Show, she met Ettore Bugatti, a meeting that would define her career. The couple soon bought a Bugatti Type 30 from him and began racing. They married around 1922, and instead of a honeymoon, their romantic getaway was a practice run for the Karlovy Vary Mariansky Lázně race. In the 1920s, mechanics often drove with the rider, so Eliška accompanied her husband in the car. The duo raced together for 2 years in the two-seater, with Eliška acting as both mechanic and even changing gears at times. But you can only shift gears for so long without getting the thirst for wheeling the car too. Eliška's first race was in 1923, driving a Bugatti T30 with Čenek as a mechanic, which put her in the 2-liter category. Races were split up on car type, so for you Gen Zers out there, that's like if you put a GT3 on track with a Twingo. The Twingo will of course smoke the GT3, so we need to put them in separate classes. A ban was placed on mechanics accompanying drivers, so the Junková made a decision to buy a second car, and what else but a Bugatti. And in 1924, she got the chance to drive by herself in that new Bugatti, and she was a natural. In the Lokotin Tramosna race, she placed first in the touring car category and became an overnight celebrity. She showed even more driving potential than her husband, and in the spring of 1925, she improved on her accolade by winning the event overall, in a slower car than her husband. She started winning, and winning a lot. She had 13 wins just in her category, and 3 overall wins, and in 1926, at the 10th edition of the uphill race, the Zbraslav Julovisti, she was able to achieve something incredible. She defeated not only her husband with the stronger Type 35 in her Type 30, but she had become probably the first woman in the world to become the absolute winner of an international automobile race. She quickly gained fame across Europe and earned the nickname Queen of the Steering Wheel, and in 1927 at the German Grand Prix, she finished first in her class and 4th overall, setting a new track record. An extraordinary result and a huge step to show that yes, a woman can stick it to the rich gents in these metal coffins. As she became even more prolific, her eyes turned to something even more challenging. Nestled in the mountains of Sicily, the Targa Florio was a marquee event in Europe in the 1900s. Nowadays, we have Le Mans, Bathurst, Nürburgring, some of the most iconic endurance races, and in the 1920s, you had Targa Florio, a true embodiment of a siren, beautiful but deadly and punishing. sitting at a whopping 108 kilometers, a length that would put the Nordschleifer to shame. The track was stitched together with tight village lanes, a gravel mountain climb, and no barriers to stop cars from plunging off the road if they missed a turn. It had 1,500 of them, and most of them were very repetitive and non-memorable. Most drivers would run the course a few times, maybe memorize the general layout. But not Eliška. No, by race day she had completed the route 50 times and already knew the whole course by heart. In 1927, when the race started, she soared during the first lap, and when the competitors crossed the line for lap 2, she was in 4th position, ahead of several factory-backed teams. Until the steering broke, throwing her and her husband, who was acting as a mechanic, off the road. A rough end, but Eliška vowed to come back stronger in 1928. And boy did she. With her sights set on winning the 1928 Targa Florio, Ettore Bugatti gave her a Type 35B to become competitive with at the top level of racing. This time, she attempted to do a course lap. She and her husband were one of the first people to start this practice that many drivers do nowadays, which is going around the track and stopping to put chalk markers at different intervals on the track to help guide her. The race was chock full of strong entries, with Bugattis, Maseratis, Alfa Romeos, and other makes entering, and on race day, cars were flagged at 2-minute intervals. Junkova was one of the latter drivers to be flagged off, and as the first lap went by, she was storming. With her extra preparation, she was extremely fast and terrified most of the grid, who, to put it lightly, absolutely refused to lose to a woman. As the first lap came and went, times were taken, and future F1 driver Louis Chiron was leading, followed by one of the Alfa Romeos, Giuseppe Campari, and Chiron's teammate in the second Bugatti, Albert Divo. However, the person who came around in 4th, Eliška Junková, just 30 seconds back after a mammoth 108-kilometer lap. By the second lap, Chiron pushed too hard and went off, followed by Divo pitting. On lap 2, after passing nearly 20 cars, the leader of the race was Eliška Junková. The queen of the steering wheel diced it up with the best of the 20s and was coming out on top. But this race was brutal, and not only to the drivers, but to the cars as well. And by the end of the 4th lap, she had fallen to second as Campari's Alfa Romeo had charged back to take the lead. Campari pushed hard before suffering a tire puncture, needing to finish the last 6 miles on a wheel rim, which, for those of you who have done that before, that's, not good. Campari crossed the line first, but seeing as he started nearly 40 minutes ahead of some of the drivers at the back, the officials eagerly waited for the rest of the field. The rest of the field was tight. Eliška was in second and had closed to about a minute behind, with Divo and Gilberto Conelli within seconds of her. Gilberto Conelli, having started higher up the order, went faster than Campari, and Divo in the Bugatti topped him. It was all down to Eliška, who had set a blistering pace through the first half of the lap and had closed considerably on Campari's lead. Unfortunately, like Campari, her car also suffered a puncture in the final half of the lap. Her husband spent 2 precious minutes fixing it. The bad news unfortunately got worse as the engine decided to overheat, causing a loss of water. Eliška had to drive extremely cautiously just to nurse the car back. She ended up finishing 5th of the 12 drivers that ended up finishing the race. 9 minutes behind Divo, the winner. She was ahead of René Dreyfus, Tazio Fagioli, and even the legend himself, Ernesto Maserati, but a win had slipped out of her grasp. She wanted to try again the next year and was preparing herself for hopefully the 1929 event where she would be one of the favorites. But that would never end up happening, as this would be the last time she raced this event, as Eliška and her husband Čenek moved on and raced at the Nürburgring a few months later. And on this race, during the 5th lap, Čenek was driving and pushing hard. He went wide at a corner, hit a rock, and rolled the car. Čenek passed away soon after with a head injury. Eliška, devastated, immediately retired from racing. The 1920s saw many pioneers, and Vincent Čenek is one that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it should. As for Eliška, she did many things. Ettore Bugatti presented her with a new touring car for a trip to Sri Lanka, or, seeing as how the British imperialism was still rampant, British Ceylon. She joined and helped the Bugatti trade agency and stayed good friends with Ettore Bugatti, and in 1989, at the age of 89, she was attending a Bugatti reunion in the United States as a guest of honor. and Bugatti even honored her with a special edition Veyron in 2014. The Queen of the Wheel passed in 1994. She lived a long and full life. Eliška was largely forgotten by the racing world, but to many, the Queen of the Steering Wheel remains one of the pioneers of the sport and one of the best women to wheel a car. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.